Hey everyone, before we get into the podcast, we want to announce some updates with our Power Monkey courses leading into 2022. We are excited about continuing to offer our gymnastics and weightlifting combo courses, 1 and 2 day offerings. If you go to powermonkeyfitness.com, search under the events tab, you'll be able to see what we already have on the agenda for 2022. We will be expanding into kettlebell offerings as well. Those are already up on the site too. If you're looking to host one yourself, please contact us at info@powermonkeyfitness.com and we'll get one of the courses out your way if one's not already on the agenda. Come hang out with us, learn some technical expertise when it comes to weightlifting, gymnastics, and now kettlebell. Hopefully see you soon. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Chad Vaughn, and on today's episode, we have James Newbury. Now, James is an incredible athlete coming out of Australia, having been to the games multiple times, finishing as Australia's top athlete multiple times, and finishing in the top 5 at the CrossFit Games as an individual athlete as well. He's a bit of a renaissance man. He has been taking on many new challenges in the fitness world, competing in the triathlon world, the Olympic weightlifting world, and also trying his hand as a power lifter. He's one of these guys that really seems to be great at everything that he goes after. Talk a little bit about what his training has been like now that he's putting more time into the triathlon world, just finishing up the CrossFit Open, but a little bit less interest in trying to compete at a higher level right now in CrossFit. What it's like to be a gym owner, moving to a new city, taking on some new challenges as an entrepreneur, and all the things that come along with that, as well as being a vegan athlete in a world that is known a little bit more for taking a paleo or even maybe a carnivore diet perspective. It was great to speak with James for the first time. Lots of interesting stuff coming up in his life, and we hope you guys enjoy this one. Well, James, thanks so much for taking the time, man. It's not the easiest thing in the world to try to schedule these things when people are on the other side of the world. So we appreciate you waking up nice and early to be with us.
Hey, I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So first things first, we just came off of the completion of the 2022 Open. Wanted to get your thoughts. Chad, myself, and Chris Hinshaw have been going through weekly podcasts with the Open workout, kind of give some people some tidbits, some nuggets of info when they were announced. And I'm curious what your perspective was on these 3 workouts.
Yeah, well, in all honesty, getting ready for these workouts, I've actually just been doing triathlon. So I actually haven't done a ton of CrossFit. I think I bought because I'm living in Geelong now, which is a new city for me. So I think I bought a 6-pack at the local CrossFit gym probably about 5 weeks ago, and I used my last one for my 3rd Open workout yesterday. So a lot of my training has been based around aerobic stuff. I think I've lifted weight. I think I've lifted like an ollie bar maybe once in that time span, and then the rest have just been like just a Metcon sort of like just once a week. But we had an Ironman 70.3 Ironman 3 weeks ago, which was my partner and I's major thing. So I've kind of just used that as my training leading up to this, and just hoped that my gymnastics and my weightlifting, if it came up, would just hang in there, which it did,
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the workouts, the one that I thought was going to buckle me the most was the wall walk, dumbbell snatch, step over, but it ended up being my best one. I felt completely fine throughout that whole workout, but the one that actually kind of really got me was the deadlift one, which is usually my bread and butter.
Interesting. So what was the goal then with the Open? We were doing it just because, you have a presence within the community. I mean, you finished 205 in the Open right now. Is there hopes to kind of continue to compete? Were you just doing this because, you're still in the community? I'm kind of curious why you decided to do it if you have other
definitely. I still want to be a part of it. I still want to take it, as far as I can. I'd love to get back to at least semis, but I had such a blast in the demo team last year that if I had the opportunity to do that again, I could not say no. It was just such a cool experience. You got to see a different side of the CrossFit Games. So if I can still make it through to semifinals, go to Taurine, which is the Oceania qualification. If I do really well there, doing what I'm doing, which is working on my one arm handstand, which has been the thing that I really wanted to get this year. I want to get a one arm.
Whoa! All right, we're taking Chad. You can jump off the podcast.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later.
We're gonna have to talk about that in a second, but continue.
Yeah. So if I can do that and still have fun with my training, in terms of doing lots of random stuff, which is what I've been doing. I've got this year, again, with my partner, we have an adventure race this weekend, but we had planned to do a sprint distance triathlon, an Olympic distance triathlon, 70.3 Ironman, full distance Ironman at the end of the year.
Wow.
We have a powerlifting comp, an Ollie comp, and a strongman comp in between then. And to do the CrossFit stuff all at the same time, I definitely wanted to compete in the open. Like, I just want to do that every year if I have the ability and the time to do it. And, you know, like coming into it, I thought I will be probably in the top 10% as long as I can move around. Like, the cardio is still, like, I still have the cardio there, and I've still been lifting weights, but just in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, getting through to the quarterfinals, this quarterfinals will be actually a test to see where I kind of sit. But after the open, I'm quite surprised, because there has been opens where I have trained specifically CrossFit double sessions 5 days a week, gone into the open and placed 20th in Australia in the open. And when I've been like really hammering down on it. This year, I actually haven't checked to see where I finished up yet, but I think I'm maybe in the top 20, top 15, somewhere there. And honestly, I have done next to no CrossFit, and not taking away from anyone. I've been training hard, but I've been training hard in just a different format, and it's been very aerobically based.
That's incredible. Well, it's a CrossFitter in the truest sense of the word, where you're taking that fitness and applying it in so many different areas. And it's cool to see triathlon be kind of the thing that's kind of taken hold for you. I'm curious. I've seen some videos on you train triathlon and things like that. Had you had any interest in this prior to kind of jumping in with both feet, or is this something completely new for you, like just a new challenge?
So I did a sprint triathlon in high school, in maybe year 10, and it was like on a Friday, and I was not a swimmer back then. I was only getting into swimming just after that, and we'll make more so boards and things. I used to do surf life saving, but I was never a swimmer. And I thought, oh, cool, Friday, triathlon's on. Yeah, maybe I can register and get a day off school. And then after I did it, I was like, wow, that was like, it was a lot of fun. I got to go out and do it with my mates. And then I kind of just had it in the back of my mind for a long, long time, like 10 years. And then when I qualified for the CrossFit Games in 2016, I thought, oh, I should really start, you know, I can't let the Australian name down. I have to be good in the water. So I actually put extra effort in getting better in the water and better at swimming, because they'd always say on the commentary, the Australians will do well in the water. And I just didn't want to be the Australian that didn't do well in the water. So I really knuckled down on that, and I was swimming a little bit extra, and I went and got a coach. And then I started swimming with a club. And when I started swimming with a club, these were people that had been swimming their entire lives. And I was swimming with seniors. So I was swimming with, like, you know, 55, 60-year-olds who were smoking me in the water. And I was just like, okay, well, this is kind of where I need to be, because then this 90-minute pool session is going to be well better than what I would be doing by myself in an hour, just hitting random laps. And it was a structured session. There was no room to rest. It was like, it was just bang, let's go. And it did make me a better swimmer. And then I kind of just fell in love with the swimming aspect, and I've always loved to run. And then I got stuck into, for some reason, in one off season, I got stuck into criterium racing. So racing my road bike around like a 1,500 meter track, racing like 40 other guys. I got stuck into that for some reason, because it was right near my house. I saw it happening. I was like, oh, that looks cool. Maybe I'll register for a race. And I did, and then ended up loving it. So then I got on the road, and I was like, you know what? Let's just do a triathlon, and I had a blast.
Wow. So I think just being Australian and saying you're not good in the water is all relative, right? Maybe it's a little different than Chad and I saying that we're not good in the water. How are you at swimming? I've never seen Chad actually go in the water.
Oh, me? No, I sink like these quads, man. Quads and these glutes are just straight, you know, large
Straight
and
rocks.
muscle. It's just straight down, you know.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's I do remember the feeling. I was the same as well. It just takes a long time to get them to be buoyant.
So this year, though, you said that you have about 5 different triathlon events coming up. You have a sprint, you have a half, you have a full, you have Ironman. Was that kind of done with intention to try and test out different types, different lengths? What's going behind this idea? Do you have any goals with regards to trying to compete in a full, you know, higher level type Ironman?
So the idea was just to try and tick as many kind of bucket list things off the list in a 12-month period from January through to December. And we've done a couple of sprints already, and we've done the half. We have an Olympic coming up, and then the full at the end of the year. The full will obviously definitely train hardcore for. We haven't done a ton in the lead up to this Olympic, which is in a few weeks' time, but we also have a marathon the weekend after. So we're kind of just making sure we're not overdoing too much, because we've also got the Open that we've just finished, and we also have the Olympic like near it as well, and the quarterfinals will be on one of those weekends. So I'll have to try and bust out the quarterfinals right before either the Olympic or the marathon. I can't remember which one it is first.
Damn, dude, that's intense.
And yeah, and it's just, I think it's just for me, like I just love variety. Like this will be my 12th CrossFit season. And I just love variety. I love having to go at as many different things as possible. I'm never going to be the best at any of these things. Like I'm never going to qualify for, I'm never going to go pro in triathlon. I just don't think I have the time to put into it to do that, but I can still have a good time doing it. Like I think if I really, if I fell in love with it so much after this year that I wanted to have a go at just an open age group, maybe for like a local, like Ironman 70.3, and maybe qualify. I'd love to go and give Kona a crack as an open age grouper. That would be something. I'm in a very competitive age group, so that would be difficult, but I could set my sights to it and, maybe I get close. But I understand that nowadays I'll probably never be the absolute best at it, but I do have a lot of fun doing them.
I find this to be fascinating. Chad, do you ever have any aspirations for something like that?
I mean, I'm always up for a challenge. I haven't gone so far as to say I'm going to, train for triathlon and Ironman. It would be, as a competitor, it's always interesting to think, how would I handle that? How would I react? I know you can certainly learn a lot about yourself in those types of situations, especially you're unfamiliar and you haven't been doing it your whole life. How would I stack up and what would I do? But I got to ask, being that you're doing all these different types of competitions, and specifically thinking about triathlon, Ironman, and CrossFit, which has been the physically and mentally and emotionally toughest for you of those three different, CrossFit games specifically?
Oh, honestly, by far, preparation for the CrossFit games was by far the most physically exhausting, mentally exhausting experience, especially doing it when you're doing it with Tia. When I was prepping for the 2021 CrossFit Games, I went over there to do the last chance qualifier and to do some preparation before the last chance qualifier. And then I said I would stay and do the CrossFit Games preparation regardless of whether I qualified or not, just to be there for an extra training partner for Tia. And I'd also done a prep with her in 2018 as well, for the regionals and for like throughout the Open and for the CrossFit Games. And those blocks of training, by far the hardest I've ever had to deal with. Long days in the gym, hard training. And it was like mentally exhausting knowing that you had to get up. It was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. It was something I'll always remember. It was a test. And I think for an athlete, tests are great and you do thrive on that, but it wears you down in particular ways that you guys all know about. It wears you down and you're just like, whoa, okay, I've just finished a day. It's like 8:30 p.m. I've been at the gym like since 8 o'clock this morning. And I feel good. Like I've got all the work done. All the work's been done. It's been done to a good standard. Oh shit. We've got to be at the track at 7 a.m. tomorrow. We're going to do this again. And we have 7 more weeks of this.
Do you think that's from the sheer variety of movements and different workout combinations that you have to go through versus like triathlon and Ironman? I mean, there's a little bit of variety there, but not near as much.
Yeah, I guess the thing when you first get into CrossFit and you'll explain to someone, hey, look, the cool thing about CrossFit is that if you're not getting better at your gymnastics, you might be improving in your weightlifting. And if you're not improving in your weightlifting, you might be getting better at cardio, or you might be getting better at skills. When you are training for the CrossFit Games, it's like, okay, what am I going to suck at today the most? It's like, okay, what is going to be the thing that rocks me the worst? Like you're pretty decent at most things over the board, but there'll be something that just like, it might be a Metcon that just gets you. It's like maybe box step overs with dumbbells, which rolls me every time. Or it could be with the weightlifting, the weights that I have to hit today, because they're my percentages and this is what I have to hit to be ready, are just feeling, 15, 20% heavier than normal. They're the things that you have to try and just deal with those on a constant basis every day. You might have one day where you just have all the planets align and you have a beautiful day of training. Everything just feels great. You feel fit. You're not getting wasted in every single Metcon possible. And you come out the other side great. But then more times than not, the CrossFit Games training is so testing that you're going to come across something that you have to dig deep and you have to figure things out on the fly and deal with adversity throughout the day. And you're doing this all day long. And that's exhausting in itself, being like, okay, you're fine. You didn't do what you expected in that, but you're where you need to be. And you have to do that at CrossFit Games too. It's like, okay, I expect to do well in this workout, and then you don't do well in the workout, and you have to take that on board and then, wipe the slate clean and move on to the next event with, somewhat of a positive mindset towards it, because there's never been a time when I've had a negative mindset, walked into workout and done super well. It's always been walking in with at least a positive mindset to be like, okay, you can do well at this. You know how to do it, and just let your body do what it needs to do.
Well, so that means you were in with Tia down in Tennessee, is that right?
Yeah. It was in Nashville.
Were you in Nashville at the time? I'm curious, every time I've gone to Australia, Australians have been the most fun people I've ever come across in my life. Like everywhere I travel, I always try to seek out Australians, because you guys are just a blast. You're like, you make every party, every event better when you're around. But I'm curious, when you went, when you went from Australia to Tennessee, we spend a lot of time out that way. We have our camps out not that far away from Nashville, and we've come to love Tennessee for a variety of different reasons, because we spend so much time there with our camps and stuff. But I'm curious what the experience was for you going from Australia to a place like Middle America, and what that change was like for you in terms of just everyday life.
Yeah, well, it was, to be honest, I loved Nashville. I thought Nashville was super cool. I'm very much a chameleon. I'll get along. If I'm put in an environment, I'll usually just adapt really quick and just make the most of it. And I didn't have to make the most of anything. Nashville was great. Like the vibe there was cool. It was, easy to get around. I liked the layout. The training environment was epically cool. And we had everything that we needed in terms of bike trails, running trails, a fantastic gym setup. We had a lake not too far in Crossville that we could swim in. It was beautiful. Everything there was just so well set up that I had such a blast. And being with Tia and Shane, who I get along so well with, and also the other guys in the group like Brooke and Will, it was mega fun. Like I had such a good time, and Nashville as a city vibed it really, really well. I could definitely spend more time there. I was there for 2 months. I could definitely spend more time there for sure.
Yeah, it is a great city. And you mentioned being able to go to Cookville and things like that, and it's not that far down the road, but maybe if you ever go back out that way again, we can get you to go down 40 a little bit more there, 40 highway, and come out to our Fire Monkey camp. We got a nice lake to get you out and take a swim in as well.
I'd absolutely love that. That'd be so much fun, and we can work on my one-arm handstand, maybe.
Yes. Let's talk about that for a second. So you mentioned this as being maybe a goal for the upcoming year here. How did this come about? I mean, I don't hear too many CrossFitters have any interest in wanting to do things like one-arm handstands, and so it piqued my interest.
Yeah, it was. How did this pop? Oh, so basically, there was a girl who was coaching at my gym. I own a gym back in Adelaide. And there's a girl there who does circus, and she does some crazy cool one-arm handstands, like lots of epic shapes up on one arm. And I was like, oh, that looks so good. I have to learn this. So I got up and I was like, just giving it a go, like trying to get myself in a position to hold that one-arm handstand freestanding. And I was like, wow, this is difficult. I was like, all right, here we go. Here's a cool thing that I can do anywhere, anytime. Gives me a challenge that doesn't require me to be anywhere in particular. I can just do it in my living room if I really need to. I can spend, if I've got 10 minutes, I can spend 10 minutes working on it. And she gave me a bunch of little cues to try and work on this handstand. I even had to go on her canes, and the canes are super fun, having a crack on canes. And I just thought, okay, cool. All right, during 2022, I'll have a crack at, like, I really wanted to get my deadlift really strong this year, wanted to work on triathlon, and I wanted to get this one arm handstand. I was playing Top Golf in Miami for Waterpalooza, and I hurt my wrist a little bit playing Top Golf because I just tried to belt one as hard as I could. So I've taken a few weeks off that handstanding, but now that I'm back and things are feeling better, I'm back into it. And I was probably practicing for about a month, and I was getting to the point where I was finding the balance point and kind of just shifting around that and holding it for maybe 2 seconds. It wasn't kind of just like a let go fall. It was like, oh, I've got it for a second, and then I would come down. So that took me a long time. It took me a month to get.
That's not a long time. That's actually very quickly to get a one arm handstand.
Yeah,
that's super impressive.
I did put a post up, and I said, how long do you, like, I said, okay, let's go like Instagram experts. Tell me how long do you think it's going to take for me to get a 10-second one arm handstand on either arm. Like 10 seconds is what I wanted. And I think the majority of people who were doing one arms were saying 3 years. They reckon 3 years, it's going to take me 3 years to get it. And I was like, all right, I've got to get it this year. If I can get it done in a year, then I'll be stoked. So
that would be incredibly impressive. So I want to track this journey. I want you to send some videos over. I want to see how this thing is progressing along. Because
yeah, for sure. It's getting there. Like I can now get to the point where on either hand, I can, my feeling on the ground is much better. But then I can get up to really stacking onto one hand and then getting up to fingertips on the other hand. So I'm basically at that point there, and I can hold that for about maybe 15 seconds or so. So I'm pretty stoked with that. And if I can keep progressing there, I just really need to find that balance point, but it's so difficult. It's like, instead of being able to fall just back and front, now you're falling 360, and it's just like, where am I?
No, that's so awesome, man. It gets me so excited to hear you doing something like that. Here, all the listeners out there, I want you to hear one of the top CrossFitters in the world working on handstands, one-arm work. And what did he say is important? It's something you can do anywhere. You can do it in your living room. You don't need additional equipment. You don't need anything. You can work on handstands anywhere you are. Such a great comment. I love that, James. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be fun. Hopefully I can get it within this 12 months, and that'll be. I
think you just got to get rid of the idea of trying to get a heavy deadlift and just forget about anything barbell related and just put more time towards the handstand.
Why you got to go there, Dave?
True. It's probably true. If I just spent an hour every day just working on different things, I definitely think it would be a faster process.
So you mentioned having a coach out there that has some circus background, and I was checking out some of the images of your gym. The gym is a beautiful space with the exposed beams and everything. It looks like an awesome spot.
Thank you.
But I did notice the silks hanging from the ceiling and some of the span sets. And my wife is a circus performer, and we just hung some silks and hammock and a lyra in our little gym space that we have in our house.
Wicked.
And it's awesome to see that. We don't see that every day in a CrossFit gym where there's some circus equipment. But have you tried anything else? Have you ever tried any silks or anything like that?
Yeah, I've been on silks and straps. So I've had a go at those, and we've got a guy. So the girl who trains there, she works as a performer still. She's young. She's only 22. Did her first open this year as well, and did extremely well, top 100 in Australia.
Amazing.
So she's picking everything up very quickly, as you would expect from a gymnast. Knows how to push pretty hard too in workouts. So she still goes on tour and performs pretty regularly. Every COVID obviously made a bit of an impact, but she still performs. And then we also have Craig. And Craig was an ex-Australian gymnast. He's been with us. Basically, the way this worked was Craig, he runs the silk side of things. It's his own business, and he rents space from us of an evening and over the weekends. But he's been with us. We've been open now since March 2013, and he's been with us since a couple of months after that. The way it worked was, he was in his high vis, worked construction. And this guy walks past the gym. I had all my roller doors up, and he walks past and he sees the wooden rings hanging from the ceiling in the gym. And he was like, "Oh, cool, you got some wooden rings." And I was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" He's just walking past. He's from the work site across the road. And he goes, "Can I have a play?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, why not?" So he gets up there does this beautiful muscle up to handstand, does this like nice, like, planching position on the rings. And he's got work boots on and a high vis vest. And I was just like, okay, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
Tell me what you do. And then he does like a nice little backflip off the thing onto the ground. And he goes, oh, I used to be a gymnast. So I was like, yeah, sweet. So what level is that? You know, like Australian, like national level for like under 19s or something like that, like as a 18, 19-year-old. And then after that, he got stuck in the circus. And then he went around and did performances all around. And he goes, oh, would you be interested in renting me some space so I can hang 2 or 3 silks of an evening? And I was like, yeah, sure, man. Sounds good. Like, if you want to do that, it's after hours. I don't mind. I'll give you a key and you can lock it up. And he's been with us ever since.
Wow.
And he's gone from having 2 silks hanging on the roof to having about probably 14 silks hanging on the roof, and he's packed out every single session.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I've had a chance to have a play on those, and he's taught me a few things like how to roll yourself up in a nice L-sit position, things like that. Getting back down is a little bit difficult, but getting up I can find pretty easy, and then getting on straps and doing muscle ups and things like that. Yeah.
I love it. You should see Jordan. We have some videos of Jordan getting in some silks from our last camp, because we have a few sets that are hanging in our camp as well. Jordan, jump in. How was your silk experience there?
I mean, every time I go to Power Monkey camp, there's something else that I'm surprised that made the camp even better than it was before. And that is the current pinnacle for me. I mean, it's just fun. Plus, as somebody who's not very mobile, it's a great way to get some additional stretching work in. So I love those things.
Agreed. Agreed. Now, you're an interesting athlete in the sense that I want to jump into diet for a little bit, because I think most people have the impression that CrossFit is so closely tied to paleo diet. It's something that's stressed quite often. We're seeing so many people promote carnivore diets and the benefits of that. And I do think that the right diet for a person is very individualized. Everyone needs to find the diet that's correct for them, both genetically and you should test out different things that are right for your body type and really what works for your chemistry. But you're a vegan, and it's rare to see an athlete at your level live a vegan lifestyle. And I'm curious to kind of hear a couple things. One, how that became, if you've been vegan for a long time, and how you feel like it's impacted your training, both positively and positively and potentially negatively. But just kind of curious on those few things.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. And for me, like, being vegan, it's never something that I want to I don't want to be the person that pushes it on anybody. I'm never going to be the one to stand here and say, vegan's going to change your life. It's going to make you a superhuman. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. Honestly, I'm just doing it because it's the way that it's kind of just the way that I feel about it. It didn't impact me positively or negatively in terms of physical aspects at all. Like, I feel exactly the same as I did 3 years ago. It wasn't like wow, I'm a completely changed person and I have so much more energy and I feel like I'm less inflamed. It was honestly felt zero difference. I feel like the natural progression of where my strength and where my fitness has gone would have taken a pretty similar path, whether I was still eating the same way I did before, which was healthy. But I was eating an omnivore diet. I did it just because I just didn't want to contribute to, the industry that I felt was, being cruel in some aspects to animals. So I basically just said, you know what, bang, I'm not going to do it. And I found it very, very easy. I found it very, very easy for me to do. It was just like a snap decision in the car one day. And I was just like, you know what? I was always hesitant to do it because I did think it was going to affect my performance. And I was, selfish in a sense to think, I'm just going to do it and I'm going to block out what is really making me tick. And yeah, I just kind of, bit the bullet and did it. And I felt the same. I felt good either way. Like, I had good days eating an omnivore diet. I had bad days eating an omnivore diet. And the same thing happens now. Like, I'll have a good day in the gym and I'll have a bad day in the gym. And in terms of strength, which is usually what people ask me, is just how have you found it impact your strength and your body weight? Do you find it hard to keep weight on? Do you find it hard to recover? And honestly, I feel the same. I recently just did a powerlifting competition at the end of last year in December, and I hit record, and to be honest, and this is, I guess, it's not tooting my own horn. I don't want to do that at all, because I hate that. But like, I didn't do tons of training leading up to it. Mind you, I wasn't doing a ton of endurance either. And I feel like as soon as I ramp up endurance training, my strength numbers do go down a touch. But I wasn't doing much of that. I was just kind of doing a little bit of lifting each week, maybe like one session a week, a little bit of CrossFit training, a few sessions a week. And like, I PR'd pretty much every lift. Mind you, my back squat was in wraps, which I haven't used wraps before, but I put about 15 kilos on my back squat. So I lifted 215 kilos back squat. I deadlifted an all-time PR, 260 kilos. And I bench pressed in a competition, like proper pausing rep at 130 kilos. And I hadn't done any of those before. And that would have been all-time records for me. And that was, 2.5 years of being completely vegan and, not specifically training for a powerlifting comp either. So I don't think in terms of anything like that, it's affecting strength for me. But again, this might just really just suit the way that I operate. And again, I agree with you 100%. Everybody is completely individual when it comes to their nutrition.
So just one follow-up question to that. Have you had blood work done just to track any metrics around how it's affected you from a blood work perspective? And then also on the sleep side, have you noticed any changes or anything positive, negative on the sleep side?
Yeah, both of those are very interesting aspects. And I love the data behind this stuff. So I was very interested to get my blood work, and I've had 2 sets of blood work done. Everything has been exactly where it needs to be an athlete. So I was actually in a lot of aspects, I was high in some ranges. The only thing, like, I was right smack bang in the healthy range for my iron. On my second one, I was slightly lower, but it was still in the good range. So they said, if you wanted to, being an athlete, if you wanted to up your iron a little bit, maybe once a week, take an iron tablet. And I've had and that's after 2.5 years of doing it. And I've had 0 outliers in my blood work, which was good, which was what I really wanted to see. And then in terms of sleep, since I stopped, so when I was training full time for the CrossFit Games, you would think training so hard that you would be just knocked out. As soon as you go to sleep, you're just knocked out. And I'm a very, very, put me down anywhere for 5 minutes and I'll be asleep, no matter the time of day, bright, dark, whatever. And I would wake up probably at least 2 to 3 times a night while I was training super, super hard. I think my body was so beat down, I just couldn't relax. I was just twitchy. I was, probably neurally drained as well. I wasn't all that sore. I'm probably more sore now because I'm attempting things that I don't do on a regular basis constantly. Like, I did the open workout like 2 days ago, the thruster, and I haven't thrusted in probably 4 or 5 months, and my quads are on fire still. But now my sleep, the time I go to sleep at, say, it might be 10 o'clock, I sleep right through until 7 a.m. the next morning, and I don't wake once. But I also think that's due to having a decreased volume of training for me.
Right.
But my sleep now is beautiful. It's better than ever.
Love hearing that. Well, my just last question here, I'll let you jump in here, Chad. But you do have an ebook around your vegan lifestyle in here. I'm curious with regards to a couple of recipes. What's kind of your go-to meal when it comes to, like, is there something that you just love having, something you have multiple times per week? What's kind of your go-to when it comes to a good meal on the vegan side?
Yeah. So in the Vegan Athlete ebook, probably my number one, like, desserty nice one is my avocado mousse. Like, that for me is like all time, because all I do is I just get some avocado, I get some like raw chocolate, like raw cacao, mix it all in, put some salt in there, put some like organic maple, and then I add some protein to it. So add some chocolate protein, and then you've got a bit of carbohydrate, bit of fat, bit of protein, and you're getting in a whole avocado in one go. And that's my go-to. A bunch of antioxidants as well. That's my kind of go-to meal if I want like a nice sweet snack. If I'm just in the morning, most of my mornings are built up with oats. So I'll usually do oats, berries, bit of protein, some nuts, and then I'm good to go. And then, like, for a savory meal, it's very simple. It's usually just rice, beans, and like tofu, rice, beans, tofu, and then sprouts. I love sprouts, so I always chuck sprouts in the pan too. So that's pretty much my go-to meals. They're very, very easy to do, easy to prep, takes 5 minutes. And all plant-based.
Love it. Chad, nice. Vegan lifestyle for you?
Not quite. I'm not opposed to giving it a try. Definitely not. It's all very interesting, and it's interesting to hear you feel like, things didn't really change for you a whole lot. And I want to come back to that, this incredible really mindset that you have here in a little bit. But of course, I got to bring up the barbell. You've talked about powerlifting competitions. You talked about Olympic lifting competitions, and specifically wanting to get your deadlift, increase your deadlift. You mentioned 260 kilos, which is, for those that speak in pounds, is about 570. So 572, I think, to be exact, 573 pounds. Is that your best deadlift? And what are you hoping to increase that to?
Yeah, that's my all-time best deadlift. I can flick you guys a video of it. You can give me some pointers or some cues. But yeah, that's my all-time best. And I do want to increase that. Yeah, I would love, by the end of the year, I would love to hit 300 kilos, so 660.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I mean, already such a huge deadlift there at 260, but 300 would be quite the marker to be able to say, yeah, I deadlifted 300 kilos, which is a little over 660 pounds. I will say that I won't give you any tips on the deadlift. I'm not a power lifter. I'll leave that to, I'm very fond of Australian strength coach on IG. So, I know he can help you out. But Olympic lifting, talked about doing an Olympic lifting competition. Now, have you ever done an Olympic lifting competition before?
Yeah, I registered for a competition. It probably would have been 2 years ago. And I really wanted to get that. That was a bucket list thing too. Mm-hmm. And I didn't end up totaling there. I came into it, I'd actually done a full on, literally just focusing on snatch and clean and jerk for probably a solid 8 weeks leading into that. Felt super strong, was hitting like 99 to 100% of my clean and jerk all-time records, like very, like on a regular basis. I felt comfortable hitting them. Got to competition. I must have got the jitters going into competition. I warmed up and I wanted to open with 120 kilo snatch. I warmed up to 115 kilos, hit a nice smooth, I think I hit 2 or 3 reps at 115 in warm up. And I was like, yep, I feel really good. I'll do 120 on the floor. Overshot the first one, just put way too much on it, overshot the first one. Then I was like, oh, okay, damn it. Like that felt really easy off the ground, felt really easy through the pool, and then just sent it too far. And then on my second lift, I threw it up, I sat with it. Everything was wobbly and unstable, and it was so dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. And then you're looking forward straight at the judges. And I don't know what happened to my mind. And then I was sitting there and then it was wobbling around. And then I felt both of my elbows just go, and they both kind of like subluxed under themselves. And I felt both my biceps. I thought I dropped the bar. Well, I dropped the bar, thought I had torn both my biceps like off the bone. And I've got the video of that too, if you want to see it. It looks horrendous.
I think I'll pass on that one.
Yeah. and then, yeah, I couldn't then, after that, I couldn't pull off the floor. As soon as I went to pull off the floor, both my biceps would flare up. And luckily they weren't torn off the bone. I just strained them very badly. And that took a good couple of weeks for them to come right after that. So I didn't get to total. So it's still on the bucket list. I haven't totaled at an Ollie comp, but I was aiming for, I would have been stoked with 125 kilo snatch and 160 kilo clean and jerk is what I was looking for. I think focusing more so on that, around 130 kilo snatch I'd be looking for would be pretty good. And yeah, that 165 mark, if I was to really prep for one, somewhere there.
Nice. So you're doing another weightlifting competition, which will be your second one. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm going to register for one. That's probably in about 4 or 5 months time. Just a local comp. It won't be a state titles or anything like that. Just a local.
Nice. And the reason why I'm asking how many times you've done it, because I'm very interested to hear. I mean, I would especially be interested to hear after you do another one, after you do a second one, but even after doing one, do you notice any differences in a weightlifting specific competition versus any other type of competition that you've done? Can you compare, your anything mentally focused or execution wise that you feel you have to do different?
100%. So the weightlifting comp, in comparison, for instance, let's put it to something that's somewhat similar in an aspect, is a powerlifting comp. with a powerlifting comp, I felt like it was, I felt like I had more room for error. Whereas the weightlifting comp, you have to be so precise with where you put the barbell that it was like almost made you sick to the stomach. And I get a little bit nervous before competition, but with CrossFit, you have a bit of room for error. Every time you step out on the floor, you've got 15 minutes, you've got 20 minutes, you've got this and this and this. And the one aspect of a CrossFit competition that used to really get me was when you had 2 attempts at a snatch, and if you didn't hit one, DNF. Whereas the same thing happens if you miss all 6 lifts in your weightlifting comp. And you just walk out into the floor, it's dead silent, and you just have to nail it. Like, whereas with everything else, I feel like, with a bench press, it goes down and it goes up. You either get the strength done or you don't get the strength movement done. With the snatch, it's like you might have everything there and you just might lose train of thought for a split second. Done. Red light. It's the amount of, it makes you feel sick to the stomach in terms of getting prepped to go on the floor. You have to be so well prepped. And then even still, if you're still well prepped, it's still nerve-wracking as hell.
It's a different animal. And I would say, what you're explaining there is really more so of a different skill that you have to have. You have to have the skill to focus and execute in a weightlifting competition. And it's different. I've played other sports and I haven't done a lot of CrossFit competitions, but I've done CrossFit competitions. And I just felt like those events for me, focus wise, were extremely easy because I've been trained to compete on an Olympic lifting platform where you're out there by yourself, 3 attempts in the snatch, 3 attempts in the clean and jerk. And that's all you get. All these years of training or months of training, whatever it's been, come down to these 3 attempts, first of all in the snatch and then in the clean and jerk. And I've told so many CrossFit athletes, games level athletes, whatever level athlete that they are, that if you've never done a weightlifting competition, I highly recommend you go do a number of them, because that's only going to help you be a better competitor in CrossFit, I would say.
Oh, 100%. What you have to train for, you have to find that, I guess, that state of mind where you can block things out very, very well and just focus on exactly what you have to do and pretend there's nothing else around you. Because if you're focusing on that person or someone moves a hand over there, it's like that could be the train of thought that you miss. You need to be so in your zone. It trains you to be in your zone to the nth degree to get it right. So I completely agree. I think that type of experience would benefit many CrossFitters in the space.
I love that. I never thought I'd be able to ask someone that's done a powerlifting competition, a weightlifting competition, triathlon, CrossFit, all these different things that you've done. I've never thought I would be able to ask someone to compare that way. So it's awesome to talk to you and to get to hear you say that. And with all these things that you've done, and even when you were talking about switching to vegan, you mentioned that it was easy for you to do that. And it seems like everything is easy for you because you have such a strong and open mindset. And it's awesome to sit here and listen to you talk and explain all these things that you've done and that you want to do. And I know that it's easy for you, but it's certainly not easy for everyone. So I'm wondering, as a gym owner and as a coach, how do you help athletes overcome the obstacles that they have? Like for me, when I'm thinking about when I owned a CrossFit gym before, I became terrified to talk to anyone about nutrition because it's going to be a big turnoff. Like it takes everything we have just to, keep them in the door. So I don't want to scare them off with nutrition. So how do you tackle those aspects and those challenges with other people when it comes so easy to you?
Well, I think for me, I would never give someone, typically what I try and do is I will just give people a bit of a background story of my own personal experience. And if it clicks with some people, I guess I'm okay with the fact now that sometimes it'll click with someone and sometimes it just won't vibe with them as much. So all I try and do is if they've got an issue or a problem or they come to me and they're asking for advice, and I always wait for them to ask me for advice. I never just give my 2 cents worth where I feel like it's not needed or it's unnecessary or it's unsolicited. I will just try and bring it back to some type of previous personal experience where I think it relates to them. And if I can articulate it in a way to them that it makes sense, then I've done my job well, and they can take from that what they will. If it's to do with nutrition, I can say, yeah, like I've tried zone. Yeah, I've tried paleo. Yeah, I've tried this. Now I'm vegan and I love it. And I don't see myself ever changing from this at all. But I'm not here to push it on you at all. It's maybe you might like, and if it's in the back of their mind, it's like, hey, I've been really trying to go a little bit more plant-based. I'd be like, great, maybe just start with 1 day a week or 1 meal a week, or, maybe on a Sunday, all you do is eat is plants, and see how you feel the next day, and maybe do that for a couple of months. And then if you like it, maybe just do the weekend. Never want to push someone into something or be too, this is the facts and this is exactly what it is, because it's not always that way. Like I can explain something about triathlon to someone and it may work or it may not work. So I can never talk to someone in certainties, but I can always give them previous experience and honest experience. I'd never give someone a dishonest experience that I've had to try and sway them in a particular way. I just give them pure 100% honest experience, and then they can take from that what they will.
Yeah, I love it. Give them what you got and take it or leave it. And that's been a battle for me as a coach, as a writer, as a content creator. Is how do you do that and not worry as much what other people think? Is it good? Is it bad? Well, just put it out there and do the best you can. So I love your mindset.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Like, I think for me, like I get super fired up. Like I love to surf. And it's always been on the back burner ever since I took up super competitive professional sport. But every time I do get back into it, it's like, man, I need to do this more. I need to do this more. I need to, like, I'd love to set aside time to make sure I get in and get this done. But for me, it's, I just love variety. I just enjoy putting myself out there just to have a crack. And I think that's the attitude that I was brought up with, was just have a go. And if you like it, do it again. And if you don't really vibe with it, then find something else that you do vibe with more. There's been plenty of times I've gone out to a sport that I thought I wasn't going to enjoy and had an absolute blast. And there have been plenty of times where I've gone out and it's like, oh, okay, that was a cool experience, but I probably wouldn't really want to do that again. Like that was kind of okay. But I think for me, it's just about having a crack as many different things as possible. I've always been one to try and be open-minded, in a sense, to give everything a go until I've, made up a mind. Is like, did I have a good time? And at the end of the day, experience is experience, whether it's good or bad or somewhere in between. At least I can bank it, and then it might teach me something later down the track that, can help me or help someone else.
Now, I want to ask you, before we get off the podcast, I want to make sure I ask you something here, because I mentioned it earlier, but we're in the process of building a small little home gym here at my house. We have a little extension onto the house that has some nice vaulted ceilings. Not a big space, but one that I've kind of curated over the last couple of months, kind of turned it into my own little sanctuary. And we're figuring out what things. I put stall bars up. We got a barbell. We got rings hanging from the ceiling. We got aerial equipment. All these little pieces and I'm like in love with this little space. And it's been fun to see my little daughters running around. But I saw you put together an epic home gym. Epic, absolutely epic. Now it sounds like you moved from where that space was.
Yeah.
But a couple of things. One, was that an easy process for you? Because the gym itself turned out to be just, one of the nicest home gyms I've ever seen in my life. If anyone has not seen it, I highly recommend you going on YouTube and watching the process and seeing that completed gym. And then secondarily, if someone wants to build a home gym, are there like 2 or 3 items that are absolute musts, like things that you would absolutely say you have to have in a home gym if you're looking to build something with limited space?
Okay, cool. Well, this is a great question, because I loved putting together that home gym, and that taught me so much. So when I do it the next time, it'll be even better, which is great. So there was one thing that was a non-negotiable for me, and this is a little bit left to center for a lot of people, but the one thing that was on the top of my list that I've always wanted since I was a kid, or like mid-teens, was a bench pull or a seal row. So I wanted the seal row. I really wanted to make sure that was part of it. Always wanted one. So that was just a non-negotiable for me. It's like, okay, if I'm going to go out and spend a lot of money putting this home gym together, I want that. So that was one thing. I definitely think a rig is, you probably build your home gym around your rig. You can do squats off it. You can do your gymnastics, pulling movements, like your bar muscle ups, your ring muscle ups, your pull ups, etc., toes to bar, kipping pull-ups.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can also attach your wall balls and things to that. So the rig is kind of like the center point. But then the fun thing that I liked, that I really wanted, and this was just, okay, can we justify putting this in? Yes, yeah, let's do it, was the P-bars.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you about. That was what I was going to ask you. I saw the P-bars, they're sick. So I wanted to see kind of if you actually use them or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I actually had Craig, the guy from the gym, the aerialist. I said, "Oh, do you want to come over and teach me some movements?" And he brought over this booklet of all these things that you had to be good at. And I said, "Oh, okay, cool." And he took me through a list of about probably 10 different movements on the P-bars. And then I was like, wow, this is tough. Like, it was like putting your legs out and around over the P-bars, and then you kind of scoop through and you do like almost like a kipping action and through again. Sure. And all these hops and things and other bits and walks and stiff walks. And I was like, oh yeah, so what age groups is this for? He's like, oh, this is like the 3 and 4 year olds. I was just like...
Well, yeah, I wasn't going to bring it up, but you talked about competing in so many different things, and triathlon, you did your first weightlifting competition and this and that. And I'm always curious when a CrossFitter is actually going to transition and compete in the gymnastics world. I don't know if it'll ever happen. You seem to be a prime candidate for someone to actually do that, but it'll end up, as long as you have the humility to be able to compete against 5 and 6 year olds, because that's really going to be your prime competitors with.
I have no problem. Getting towed by 5-year-olds. No problem at all. As long as I'm having a good time, that would be great. And I would really like to go into a proper, I haven't even done this yet. I'd love to go into a proper gymnastics setup and just have a go, like get taught a little bit about, the uneven bars, and maybe, learning something there, or trying to get up to a swing into a handstand or something like that. That'd be super cool. But then just having a go. I'd love that. It's a bit of fun, big kid stuff, right?
Love it. That's another reason to come out of the Power Monkey camp, man. We got all that stuff playing around, pits and mats, and at least situations where we create a little bit of safety around trying those things that are more challenging than you might think.
If you come off my P-bars, you're literally going straight onto 15 mil rubber matting. So it's a pretty heavy fall. So you try not to fall. But Craig, when he got on there, he was doing these big swings up into handstand. And then he did this swing and he swung, and then he came off horizontally to the P-bars, did a backflip, and then landed. I was like, okay, I have to learn this.
That's going to take more than a month. That's a pretty challenging dismount right there. But parallel bars, I love it. I love that you added those to your home gym. It's something that we try to stress such a ton with the people that we work with, this idea of getting strong with a stable static apparatus before expecting to do the same things on something like rings. Like people just jump right to rings because that's normally they see in a workout, ring dips or muscle ups or whatever else it might be. But in gymnastics world, we learn how to do those support positions statically first before we can actually transition to the ring. So I love that you were using those and promoting those. I think it's such a great tool that I hope more gyms put in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Love them. Love them.
And one more thing on this, you're a bit of an entrepreneur yourself too, with an item that you created, the tiny timer, and sell me on this now, because I'm looking for a timer for my gym and looking at a variety of different ones. Why should I go with the tiny timer?
Well, so the tiny timer, it was actually kind of born out of necessity, really, because I was during when we were in lockdown, and a lot of people were in lockdown, I actually were doing Zoom calls with some athletes, and in particular, some of the tennis players. And I would be taking these guys through workouts, and I would be doing like a Zoom call like this, trying to put up a timer on the screen of my computer so I could get it all set up. And it was very hard to see, and they couldn't see my timer, and we were doing intervals. And I was like, it'd be really cool if I had a miniature timer inside my house. And some of those guys are in Spain. They were in lockdown. They were in a hotel room, so they couldn't go anywhere or do anything. And I was like, it'd be good if I had a miniature timer here that wasn't my phone, because I needed that to be separate. So I was like, miniature timer, let's go. So what I really wanted, I needed something loud enough that you could hear it. I needed something clear enough that you could see it. And I wanted something portable that you could just chuck in your gym bag. So no matter where you go, if you rock up to your gym and you just want to do open gym, you don't want to interrupt the class, you want to be off to the side, you've got your own timer. You don't have to flick around with clocks. You don't have to wait until the 10-minute time frame, the 12 minutes is up so you can start your workout. And it just seemed so easy and convenient. I just wanted something that you could also mount up on a rig where it was out of the way so it didn't get kicked. But if you didn't have a rig and you wanted to go to the park and hit your session, or you wanted to go to the track, you could literally just set it up on a tripod and you could run over the line and see exactly where your time was without having to look down at your watch. Or if you don't have a watch, you've got this extra timer that you can use for a multitude of things. So they're kind of all the biggest reasons why they kind of came to fruition and actually made it. But yeah, it was just something that was portable, easy, convenient, and it had the feel and the look of actually being back in the gym, which I think a lot of people missed during lockdown periods. Was they just wanted to feel, they wanted to hear the 3, 2, 1 countdown. They wanted to see the clock. They wanted to put the timer on. And then the thing is portable. You get to take it anywhere you like. You can actually stick it to your car. It's magnetic. So you can, if you want to do a driveway workout, you can put it on the back of your car and you can go from there, good to go. Or you can take it wherever you like. So the other thing is, the other big one for me was I also had trouble seeing the clock at the end of the pool. So if I was down one end and the clock was at the other end, I would struggle to see the timer. So this I can mount on a tripod, put at the end of my lane. And as soon as I touch the wall and pop up, I've got my timer sitting right in front of my lane. So that was also another big thing. I was like, okay, I probably should really do this now.
All right, man. That's awesome. That's really great to hear. I love hearing people come up with concepts and things that are helpful. And with this tiny home gym, I do need a tiny timer. So I think it's on
the way. I'll get one to you.
All right, man. I really appreciate it. Well, I think we're coming close to the end here. And before we end, we always like to finish up with some quick fastball questions if you're up for them.
Let's go.
All right, first one. What sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Gymnastics.
Ooh,
yes,
that was
easy. That was so quick. Did you hear that, John?
That was quick. Yeah, a little too quick. Yeah.
Yeah, you heard rapid fire, and he was like, I don't even think about it, and no feelings being hurt here. Next one. Any guests that you think would be great for us to have on the podcast?
Well, you could get my girlfriend on the podcast. She's an ex-professional powerlifter, and now she's also doing triathlon too. So she's pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
She's a ball of laughs.
Jordan, line it up.
There you go.
Great.
Sold on that one as well. Any books you've come across here recently that you'd recommend to our listeners?
There was a book that I read actually while I was over in Nashville. It's called How Champions Think. Tia actually got me onto it. How Champions Think. Chop Wood, Carry Wood is also a good one. You've probably heard of it.
Yeah, awesome. No, thank you for the recommendation there. We probably already have that one on our list, but we'll remind people to go get that one as well. Now, you've talked a lot about things that you have coming up, competitions and everything else, talked about your timer. Is there anything else you have coming up you want folks to know about, and where can they keep up with you?
Well, if they want to keep up with anything I'm doing, they can just follow me on Instagram. It's just literally at James Newbury. Paige and I are doing 1,000,001 different things at the moment. We're also, funnily enough, we're building a tiny home out of a shipping container at the moment too. So that's something you can get along with.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But on top of that, I have recently stumbled upon golf. So I'd actually like to register for a longest golf drive competition in the near future. Like, I'm not very good, but I will have a crack, and I'll probably get towed as well. But I would like to get my golf drive as long as possible. That's the next thing I really want to work on as well, is trying to get an over a 300-yard golf drive is the next goal on the list.
Nice. After the 300-kilo deadlift, there you go. That'll only help your long drive chances there. And I love how you say you're not very good at all these things, and you're just absolutely killing it. But James, man, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, to get to know you a little bit more. Hopefully we will catch you at Power Monkey Camp one of these days. And to our listeners, as always, guys, we very much appreciate you listening in. Be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, guys, thank you all for listening.